Every single day, the global economy passes through a narrow strip of water, a place so strategic, this entire planet. Massive oil tankers, longer than skyscrapers, move silently across these waters, carrying the fuel that powers cities, industries, and entire nations. Yet this vital artery of global trade is shockingly narrow, in some places, barely wider than a modern city. This is the Strait of Hormuz, the most strategic choke point on Earth. From space, it looks calm, a thin blue gateway between the Persian Gulf and the vast Indian Ocean. But beneath this peaceful surface lies immense pressure. Political tensions, military patrols, and economic stakes beyond imagination. Every 24 hours, dozens of giant tankers pass through Hormuz, forming one of the busiest energy highways in history. Nearly a fifth of the world's oil flows through this narrow passage, connecting distant deserts to the lights of modern megacities. But what happens if this gateway suddenly closes? The answer could redefine the future of global trade. The Strait of Hormuz lies between two powerful regions, Iran to the north and Oman to the south. This narrow channel forms the only sea passage connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, a true maritime gateway. At its narrowest point, Hormuz is only about 33 kilometers wide, smaller than many major cities. For ships, the safe navigation lanes are even tighter. Two thin corridors, separating massive vessels moving in opposite directions. Captains must navigate with extreme precision. A single miscalculation here could block one of the world's most vital routes. This is not just a shipping lane, it is the main highway for global energy. Every day, nearly 20 million barrels of oil pass through Hormuz, fueling economies across continents. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar rely heavily on this passage. Their exports begin here. Yet, this enormous flow of wealth moves through a region shaped by political rivalry and historical tension. A fragile balance holds it all together. For decades, the waters of the Strait of Hormuz have existed under constant geopolitical pressure. Warships patrol the horizon, surveillance aircraft circle high above, and radar systems track every movement across the sea. Beneath the surface of global trade lies a silent contest of power, influence, and strategic positioning that shapes the future of entire nations. The strait sits at the crossroads of competing ambitions. Regional powers seek security, global superpowers seek stability, and energy markets demand uninterrupted flow. Every maneuver, every naval exercise, and every diplomatic statement echoes far beyond these waters, sending signals to financial markets and political leaders around the world. There have been moments when ships from rival nations sailed dangerously close to one another, testing nerves and protocols in a confined maritime space. In such encounters, communication becomes critical. A misunderstood signal or an unexpected maneuver could escalate a tense situation into a crisis felt across continents. Over the years, several oil tankers have been damaged, detained, or threatened while navigating through Hormuz. Each incident sends shockwaves through global energy markets, reminding investors and governments alike how vulnerable this lifeline truly is. Insurance costs rise, shipping routes are reconsidered, and uncertainty spreads across the industry. Even a minor disruption in Hormuz can trigger significant fluctuations in oil prices. Traders monitor every headline, every satellite image, and every official statement for signs of instability. In a world deeply dependent on energy, the psychology of fear can move markets faster than the physical movement of ships. Naval forces from multiple countries maintain a visible presence in the region, aiming to protect commercial shipping and deter potential threats. Their patrols serve as both reassurance and reassurance that trade can continue, and remind that peace here depends on delicate strategic balance. Behind closed doors, policymakers and military planners continuously assess scenarios involving Hormuz. They evaluate supply chains, energy reserves, and potential responses to escalating tensions. In this high-stakes environment, decisions made in distant capitals can influence the fate of ships navigating these narrow waters. Geography grants immense leverage to those who control access to strategic chokepoints. In Hormuz, the physical constraints of the landscape amplify political influence. Narrow waters mean limited alternatives, and limited alternatives mean heightened stakes for every actor involved in global energy trade. Today, the Strait of Hormuz is widely regarded as one of the most sensitive flashpoints on Earth, a place where economic necessity, political ambition, and military capability converge within a few dozen kilometers of sea. Its stability is never taken for granted, and its future remains deeply intertwined with the destiny of global trade. Imagine a sudden announcement spreads across global news networks. The Strait of Hormuz has been closed. Tankers are halted, naval forces mobilize, and uncertainty grips financial markets within minutes. In a hyper-connected world, disruption in this narrow corridor would not remain a regional issue. It would instantly become a global emergency. Within hours, oil prices could surge dramatically as traders scramble to secure alternative supplies. Energy-dependent economies would feel the pressure first, triggering inflationary waves that ripple across industries. From transportation to food production, the cost of modern life could rise with alarming speed. Major shipping companies might be forced to reroute vessels across longer and riskier maritime paths. Congestion in alternative routes would grow rapidly, increasing delays and operational costs. Global supply chains, already fragile in times of crises, could experience severe disruption affecting goods far beyond the energy sector. Financial markets tend to react not only to reality, but to expectations of what might happen next. Rumors of prolonged closure could spark widespread panic selling, currency volatility, and sudden capital movements. Investors worldwide would reassess risk, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty capable of slowing economic growth. Far from the strategic waters of Hormuz, ordinary people could feel the consequences in subtle yet powerful ways. Rising fuel costs might increase transportation fares, electricity prices, and the cost of essential goods. A distant maritime crisis could quietly reshape everyday routines in cities thousands of kilometers away. Governments maintain strategic petroleum reserves precisely for scenarios like this. Emergency releases could temporarily stabilize markets, buying valuable time for diplomatic efforts. Yet such measures are finite, and prolonged disruption would test the resilience of national energy policies and international cooperation. In the face of escalating crises, diplomats would likely rush into intense negotiations aimed at reopening the passage. Behind the scenes, complex agreements could unfold involving security guarantees, economic concessions, and coordinated international pressure. The future of global stability might hinge on fragile dialogue conducted under immense urgency. Diplomacy failed, the risk of military escalation could rise dramatically. Naval confrontations, air patrol intensification, and strategic posturing might transform the strait into a theater of global concern. Even limited conflict in such a confined space could have consequences extending far beyond the battlefield. As events unfold, billions of people across the planet would watch closely, aware that the outcome could influence their economic future. The Strait of Hormuz, once just a distant name on a map, would suddenly become a symbol of vulnerability in an interconnected world. Faced with growing uncertainty, nations and energy companies have spent years exploring alternatives to reduce dependence on the Strait of Hormuz. Pipelines stretching across deserts, new export terminals on distant coastlines, and evolving shipping strategies all aim to create resilience in a world where one narrow passage holds extraordinary influence. Yet geography cannot be rewritten easily. Many alternative routes are longer, more expensive, and less efficient than the direct path through Hormuz. Infrastructure takes decades to build, and global demand for energy continues to grow. For now, the world remains deeply tied to the natural constraints of this strategic maritime corridor. At the same time, a global shift toward renewable energy is slowly transforming the strategic landscape. Solar farms, wind turbines, and new battery technologies promise a future where dependence on fossil fuel choke points may gradually decline. However, this transition is complex, uneven, and likely to unfold over many decades. As energy systems evolve, the balance of power surrounding strategic choke points may also shift. Nations that once relied heavily on maritime oil routes could diversify their resources, while emerging technologies reshape economic priorities. The Strait of Hormuz may remain crucial, but its influence could gradually transform in unexpected ways. History has repeatedly shown how strategic passages can shape the destiny of civilizations. From ancient trade routes to modern shipping lanes, control over movement and resources has always carried immense consequences. The story of Hormuz is not only about geography or oil. It is about the enduring relationship between power, vulnerability, and global connection. Behind statistics and geopolitical strategies lie the lives of millions of people whose futures are indirectly linked to these waters. Workers in ports, engineers in refineries, families in distant cities, all connected through invisible networks of trade and energy. The Strait of Hormuz becomes a reminder that global systems ultimately shape personal realities. In an age of globalization, few places illustrate interdependence as clearly as the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow maritime corridor linking distant economies, cultures, and political systems. Its story reflects the opportunities and risks of a world where prosperity often depends on fragile connections. For now, despite technological progress and strategic planning, the Strait of Hormuz remains one of the beating hearts of global trade. Every tanker that passes through its waters reinforces its importance. Every tension reminds the world how much stability depends on cooperation and foresight. As the sun sets over the calm surface of Hormuz, ships continue their silent journey between uncertainty and necessity. In this narrow passage, the story of our interconnected world unfolds every single day, reminding us that the balance of global stability can sometimes depend on the width of the sea.